Hi Bobcats! Now that we've been through some information about the course, let's see what types of things you need to do in order to be successful for this course. How is it all going to work? Our objectives are to figure out how this course works, to identify the primary and additional sources of instruction, to distinguish formative and summative assessment. We're going to actually look at that more closely this time around, and then use all of this information to create a plan for success for this course. I'd really like for you to get into the flow of how the course is designed. This particular image that I snipped out of chapter 12 is showing how the different pieces of the chapter 12 module are set up. My intention is that you're going to start at the top and work your way on down. So you will start with the first page in chapter 12, which is the PowerPoint and objectives. When you get in here, you will see a list of all of the objectives for chapter 12. These objectives are gold. These tell you what it is you should learn out of this chapter. When I write a test, I use these lists of objectives for all of the chapters as a blueprint for the test. Let me say that again. When I write tests, I use these lists of objectives from all of the chapters that are on the test as a blueprint for the test. Also, in this first page will be a link to the PowerPoint file that will be featured in all of the recorded lectures. I expect you to have a copy of that PowerPoint file. If you prefer to do it on paper, print that out right away at the beginning of the chapter. If you prefer to do it electronically and you've got a second device so that you can watch the videos on one device and take your notes on a second device, or if you've got two monitors hooked up to your computer or something like that, then that's great. Do it electronically. But whatever it is, you should have that PowerPoint file and you should be interacting with it while you are watching the recorded videos. Okay, so once you're set up with your PowerPoint file and you've looked through those objectives, the next page is an introduction to chapter 12. Since chapter 12 is about liquids and solids, we'll be talking some just kind of a general overview about liquids and solids. This is a continuation of the last chapter you did in Chem 1341, which was gases. So we do gases, then we do solids and liquids. Or actually, I think in 1341 gases may have been moved forward, so that may not, what I just said may not be true. It may depend on what instructor you had. We used to do gases right at the end, but that's been changed around. Now most people are doing VSEPR in line with our new textbook. Anyway, you'll watch a couple of videos, right? So when you click on chapter 12 introduction, it'll take you to a page, and on that page will be a few words, and then there'll be links to videos. Again, with these videos, speed them up, slow them down, stop, go back and rewatch things, do what you need to do to learn the material. As soon as you're done with those videos, take participation number 1 for this chapter, right? It says 3 points, so that means it has 3 questions. So go through, can you answer all 3 questions correctly? Do you really know what you're doing, or did you get them right by guessing, right? So think about this really critically. And as you go through, and let's say you get 2 out of the 3 right, because as soon as you finish, it'll show you which questions you got right and which questions you got wrong, but it will not tell you the correct answers yet, not until after the due date. So as you go through and you look at what you missed, then go back, right? Go back into these videos and find that topic. You've got the PowerPoint notes, so you should be able to locate where it is, and then you can scan through the video to get to the right part. Hopefully you'll have that aha moment. That's what she was asking about. And then go back and take the participation problem set again. Hopefully this time you get 3 out of 3. If you don't, before you do that third attempt on that participation problem set, get help. Talk to Nick in SI. Talk to me in a synchronous problem solving session. talk to me in office hours, send me an email, do whatever it is that you need to do to fix whatever it is before you take it that third time. In an ideal world, everybody in the class would have a score of 100 on all of the participation problem sets because you're able to do them 3 times. And so whatever you missed, you should be able to get fixed by that third time. All right, after you do that first participation problem set, you're going to go down to intermolecular forces. When you click on that page, there will be some links to videos talking about intermolecular forces. And then you're going to move to participation 2. Again, it's that same sort of cyclic process. Whatever you missed, come back up and review. And then after you get it reviewed, try the participation another time. And again, you have up to 3 attempts at the participations. When you're done with that, move on to liquids and phase transitions. Then there's another participation problem set. Then move on to heating and cooling curves and PT phase diagrams. Then there's another participation problem set. And that winds up all of the content of the chapter. And so you've got a shot now at the Chapter 12 quiz. The Chapter 12 quiz will cover the entire chapter, and this time you only get 2 attempts, right? The participation problems all had 3 attempts, but the chapter quizzes only have 2, and the chapter quizzes will cover the entire chapter. I also have homework and learning curve way too low. As I get in and finish the final touches for this chapter, I'm probably going to move these up to just after the first participation problem set, because really in an ideal world, you're going to be working on the homework along the way. You're not going to wait until the very end to do the homework. You'll do that first page on the introduction in Chapter 12, and then you'll work corresponding problems on the homework before you move on to the intermolecular forces and such. Hopefully there'll be a lot of back and forth between the content in the recorded videos and the homework, as well as the back and forth between the videos and the participation problem sets. So finally on this slide, I'm going to get around to talking about formative assessment versus summative assessment. If I were to give you just a real short phrase to compare and contrast formative assessment and summative assessment, with formative assessment, we're talking about practice. Versus summative assessment, we are talking about game time. So what do I mean by practice and game time? Well, practice will be all of the opportunities that you have to learn and practice the material throughout our module. These will be you can sometimes think of these as being checks along the way for understanding. So it's a moment to stop and say, ooh, I really didn't get that. Let me go back and look at that a little bit more closely. And formative assessments tends to be low stakes, right? With the participation problem sets, you've got 3 attempts. With the chapter quizzes, you have 2 attempts. With the homework, you have unlimited attempts. The Sapling homework is set up so that if you miss a problem and you try it again and you get it right, you've got full credit. It doesn't matter if you had to attempt it twice or if you attempted it 100 times, you get full credit for that homework problem once you get it right. That's particularly useful in Chem 1342 when we do some of the more complicated problems that have lots of parts, because you can attempt a part and say, okay, yes, I am getting this part right before you go on and you do the next part, especially when one part depends on the answer you got to the previous part. So this is a good thing with the homework. The learning curves are similar to that. The participation problem sets and the quizzes, right? You get a chance to redo those. And whoops, I'm sorry, this is a copy-paste error. We do not have in-class activities for a grade in this class. Sorry, that should not be there. Okay, so the formative assessments are most of the assessments we do in the class. They're low stakes. They're opportunities to interact with the material and check your understanding. Summative assessment, game time. These are the exams. These are your opportunities to shine and to demonstrate the knowledge and the skills that you have acquired along the way. These are what we refer to as high stakes. You get one shot at it. And so this really is like a game or a performance. This is your opportunity to shine. There is a warning I would like to offer, or encouragement, maybe a better way to phrase it. You really need to maximize your opportunities with formative assessment. Maximize your opportunities. These formative assessments are designed to help keep you on track. Right, there's a lot of material we're learning this semester, and it's so much easier to do it in small pieces than in great big chunks. So you are using these formative assessments correctly. If you get to the point where you can work every one of these problems in these formative assessments completely on your own for start to finish. You don't have to look at your notes. You don't have to go back and look at where you previously solved it out all of the way. When you can work all of these problems on all of these assessments, start to finish, just using your own brain, your calculator, the periodic table, a formula sheet, you're in great shape for the test. But here's where the problem comes in. When you are cheating on formative assessments, you are skipping a big part of the learning process. You would never expect somebody to be able to go and give a magnificent concert when they have never rehearsed the material, or when they did such a lightweight rehearsal that they never really learned the pieces. So it's the same thing here. If you are cheating on these formative assessments, it's going to show when you take the tests. The people who cheat on the formative assessments tend to have scores close to 100% on all of the formative assessments, and then they go to take the exams and their average is a 20. Yeah, you heard me correctly. If you are not learning this material when you go to take the tests, you're going to fail. So what do I mean by cheating? Consulting Chegg. I am not a fan of Chegg, and I would be totally happy if Chegg went out of business. Chegg had so much potential to be a great learning space, and what has become of it, the way it has been implemented generally is that people post questions and they say, hey, I'm in the middle of a test, can you give me an answer real quick? And yeah, that's no good. So getting answers from Chegg, copying answers from another student, or even hiring someone else to do the assessment for you, it's gonna all catch up to you when you go to take the tests. So please, please, please don't do any of that stuff. You may get the points for the formative assessment, but go back and look at how our grades are structured. The biggest chunk of your grade it comes from the exams. And so even if you're cheating your way through all of these formative assessments, you're not going to do well in the class when you're failing the exams.